our pastor. I've even forgotten. He's the one who welcomed me here. Pastor Perez, yes, and Mama Perez. Thank you so much, Pastor, for, I attach Pastor Perez to Musida. I find it so difficult to know that he belongs here. I attach him more to Musida. But thank you so much, Pastor Perez, for feeding God's people. And again, thank you so much, the elders and the pastor, for inviting me to speak about this topic about man of God's heart. I should say this was not a very easy topic because I am not a theologian, I am a psychologist. So I know that when I'm going to speak to people, I might come to speak and say maybe things about psychology and men and so on. But I was told that this is a week of prayer and okay, Elder felt maybe we change the topic. I said, no, let's leave it like that because when we put very obvious topics, men will say, again, they are at us. Let us leave it to be just plain so that it is not having anything to judge men or to do anything about men. It's just a topic talking about a man of God's heart because at least in the Bible, we have someone we know that he was a man after God's own heart. And who was that? David. And I think we all know the story of David. He wasn't this angel, but he was a man after God's own heart. And therefore, we also want to see, is it possible to have these men to be men of God's heart? And I've given it a subtitle of A Godly Husband and Father, because at the end of the day, when you're a husband, you may also be a father at one time, whether it's your biological child or you're raising a child, you'll still be a father. I meant to understand, I saw as if, is Mr. Lufafa here or not yet? I was told, he told me he's around Chanja here. So I thought maybe he's in the audience and I've not seen him. I do not want to bring up violence. I speak about everyone and not him, but I think he's not yet here. Okay, so we can go ahead with our topic. What time are we supposed to stop? Yeah. Okay, so I've been told that this fellowship ends at 8:30, so I wouldn't love to eat more into my time. Let me start because it's 1 minute past 8. So I started with a simple introduction that this presentation is aiming at exploring the qualities of a man who exemplifies God's heart, but the focus is mainly on how these qualities impact the family and even how families can nurture these qualities or characters in their sons, husbands, and fathers. It's interesting that this topic was aimed at speaking to men, but I see the audience is full of women. How can men raise their hands up, please? Okay, okay. There is a fair representation. Men are very scarce. So when you find men in church, we should thank God because statistics are telling us that most men are either in prison or they are it's what the statistics are showing, either in prison or in the mental health faculty down there due to drugs and so on. Especially, I'm now speaking about this young generation of especially people below 30 years. The men below 30 years are really an endangered species currently. So when we have them in charge, we want to really thank God because one man can influence a nation. So that is the aim of this topic. And I wanted to start with a quote from Ellen White that the home is an institution of God. It's designed that a father, mother, and children should exist in kind of a farm. That's why there's that word family. In a farm, making a home happy, rests upon both mother and father. I know that currently it so looks like as though it's the mothers or the women who are having the sole responsibility of making sure that the home is happy. But we are seeing a very renowned writer saying it is supposed to be a shared role. Okay. But what does it mean to have God's heart? For many years ago, the view of fathers was that of, they were heads of households, but with unquestionable authority. And uh, I do not know if we still have those kinds of fathers today, but I know very well that I grew up with a father who was likely like that. They had unquestionable authority. What the father of the home said was final. It did not matter whether other people have anything else to add or not. Once he has decided, no one goes against them. I'll give you a few examples maybe as we go ahead. And however, around the 20th century, this seems to have changed to instead looking at a father as a caregiver, like not just some authoritarian, but a caregiver. In this same book, there is emphasis that the husband's role as the head of the household is responsible for providing love, support, and spiritual guidance. He should cherish his wife and also share in household duties and child care. I know that this sounds a little bit not African, but the thing is, that is what this woman of God wrote many years ago, that men should share, should help in these household duties. And it's a sign of love, although many young men would take it as a sign of weakness. And I've met such a young man who was quite young, though he had a wife, I think in his late 20s. And he told me that one of the things I can never do at home is things like wash babies, bathe babies, that would reduce me, you know. And I said, wow, now that is a perspective of a young man. So just know that this lady, whether she's tired or what, she has to die with all her work, the children and house chores. She emphasizes that share in household duties, childcare, and be a role model of integrity and patience. The book also stresses the importance of mutual respect and cooperation between husband and wife. I think when these ingredients are lacking in a home, it's very visible that people are going to have, there'll be violence, both emotional violence. It can also lead to physical violence. The moment there is no respect, both men and women are we are told to respect one another. There's no relationship that can survive so well if that is lacking. I know it looks like it should be one-sided, the women to respect the men, but people only respect is earned, right? You cannot get it when you do not deserve it. It means that even this person, there are things they must do to deserve this respect. If there's no respect, people will speak whatever they want to each other in any way without minding how one another will feel. But that is one of the things that this lady wrote about. So I wanted us to look at some verses that can tell what is the heart of God so that we can now maybe compare. Do men, maybe you look at your own self as a male. We are looking at biblical masculinity now. Yeah? Leave alone the one of the world, because the one of the world, they would expect that the man must have six-pack, yeah, drive a very big car, own a lot of wealth, maybe have so many, I don't know. to be called a man. But now we are looking at biblical masculinity and a man that has the heart of God. What is the heart of God? What the first verse was read here for us, that the Lord is slow to anger and abounding in love and forgiving sin and rebellion. How many times have we rebelled against God? Is it once? Yes? Is it once only? So you as an individual, okay, whether now you're female or you're male, if you look at your own life and you have rebelled against God more than maybe 10,000 times, but this person for one day, maybe your girlfriend or your wife makes a mistake, and then this one day this person is seen like the most useless thing on earth. Very many things are done. You know, I'm a therapist, and the work I do is clinical counseling. So I see couples, I see young people. Though I work at my career as a counselor, but I do private practice and do couple counseling a lot. And sometimes when I get a couple and then you see how people treat each other, like you would think that even I think animals are treating each other better than human beings, you know? Someone locks up, I know of a guy who locked up his wife. She was a manager in the bank, and I'm not speaking about maybe some simple village woman who has not gone to school. This was a manager in the bank, and whenever she'd come back, people who work in the bank, I think, know that sometimes you leave the bank at 9 p.m., right? Am I right? I've never worked in the bank. Yes? Why? Because I think you have a lot of work to accomplish. But this guy had put a rule that no one enters the house after 8 p.m., regardless of jam. And the lady works in the bank. So, and this was also a highly educated man, a lawyer, and a very well accomplished lawyer. But so this lady would come when she reaches the gate and it's 7, maybe 45. She goes, she panics and becomes crazy because she knows the next thing is when she reaches the gate, the guy has already told the maid, don't open, don't open the gate. And I said no one should open. So many times this highly qualified woman, a manager in the bank, slept in the car, and she would wake up. One time she went with the same clothes to work. And you know, when you respect your boss and the junior asked and said, Miss, as if you're in this suit yesterday. Yeah? And she started feeling bad. You know, she was very uncomfortable. They respected her at work, but at home she was some useless thing, right? So this lady was dying. At one point, she wanted just to speak to me before she goes home because she was overwhelmed. But she had to just rush and say, Evelyn, we have to speak so fast because it's coming to 8. I have to be inside or else they'll lock me out. And one time she poured soup on him on her, in front of children. These are highly educated people. So I'm not speaking about things that happen in the village. So, and I'm looking at the Lord is long suffering and forgives rebellion. So I'm wondering if a man has the heart of God, that means we have to do the way God does. So the next verse is in Psalms 103, which says, uh, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our sins from us. That is the heart of God. The other one is God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. Someone who loves gives, right? So because God loved, he did what? He gave. When we, unfortunately, this is a week of what? Valentine, right? So issues, this is a time where relationships break or are mended when families get issues because of the high expectations of I've not got a gift on this day. But I know that giving has to be from both sides. Yeah. The only unfortunate thing is that the day has been made that only one side should get gifts, and those are the females. However, There are males who do not give at all. And now, in the Gen Z generation today, they relate differently. I can see this church is full of Gen Zs. Yes, it's usually is in a young church. You usually find that people are young, couples are young. So I'm just learning through therapy that in the Gen Z's world, when it comes to gifting, they even tell each other, the girls tell the boys that, because I was told by someone young that I told my boyfriend, I on his birthday, I asked him, what do you want me to buy for you? And he told me what he wants. I went and I bought exactly what he wants, you know? And then on my birthday, he bought the opposite, and yet I had told him what to buy. So for me, that's news to me, because in old school, we did not do that. We thought that a gift was a gift. We thought that if someone gifts you, they have thought about you. So we did not sit to scrutinize the gift and say, now see, how much was this? For me, when I bought for him, I got all my salary and I spent half of it buying gifts for this person. But for him, he bought this. So you see things that bring violence. And I should call it unnecessary violence, because of refusing to accept that you are two different people. It's very easy for a lady to go and buy a gift and take time to think about this guy and say, he loves bright shirts, so I must buy this, because it's a feminine kind of thing. For male, they will just say, I'm buying a gift, and I'm thinking I might be appreciated. And then the poor guy brings the gift and they tell him, of all things, is this what you could buy? Yet for me, I did for you the best. So you can see the kind of love which is among the Gen Zs. And so people will have violence out of, the gift wasn't like the one I bought. There's some statistics here from our own you boss, very recent, which is showing that the percentage of single parenthood in Uganda has increased from 20% to around 30%. What does that mean? Some mathematicians here, elder, what does that mean? That in every 100 couples, how many are single? How many women are single? 30. That's a high number, right? Yeah? That's a very high number. And it's worrying that there's an increase in single parenthood. And for me, as a mental health worker, I know that an increase in single parenthood, an increase in mental health issues, because there is a reason why God put two parents. Again, in the Gen Z's world, I hear these things in therapy, guys. It's not me, I hear them. In the Gen Z's world, I hear the young girls have a connotation that, no, 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 it's okay. As long as I have a child, I do not need a man. Have you ever heard about such things? Yes? It is very worrying. So we will have an increase children who are being raised by single parents, and that's very dangerous for their mental health. We'll have increase in suicide issues, aggression, people who cannot also stay in relationships. I mean, if the child has not seen you having a male partner in your house, how is she going to do the same? Definitely, she will just say, my mom raised me alone, so I do not want orders from a man. So it is very dangerous. There is no way God made a mistake to put two parents. He knew. At least if the person has died, natural death is a different thing. Even how things turn out is different. But when you know that the father lives in Chanja and then the mother is living in maybe in Chira, they are both alive, but the child is being moved from here to there and so on. We are having increasing issues. So our statistics show there is an impact on children who are fatherless. And this impact, someone did a research and used Maslow's hierarchy of needs when they were doing their research. And one of the things we know that the lowest need is the most important. But according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, belonging needs become more visible after the physiological and safety needs have been fairly satisfied. I mean, when someone now have people have where to stay, they have where to live, they have food to eat, they're not worried about security. The other need is belonging. People are searching to be loved. People want to be accepted. And this comes right from birth to death. So as a human being, we go through stages of life, right from a baby who is born today. They need to be loved, they need to be accepted. If that ingredient is not given right from birth, this human being, 30 years to come, they will relate in that same way of insecure kind of relationship. They're not so sure if anyone loves me or if I'm special, because there were gaps right from the time that they were born. And these are more visible when people are adolescents and teenagers. Um, they behave in a way. I read some one time, it was a research from the US about the gun issue that they have. They were saying that from research, it was showing that most of the violent children, whether they are male or female, but the violent boys and girls, uh, when they follow up in the family, they realize there was a gap in the family. Either this child did not grow up with both parents or grew up in a single parenthood, or did not receive good attention and wasn't maybe loved and cared for as any other child. And so they develop aggression. I mean, if you give what you have, right? You can't give what you do not have. If you are not loved, how are you going to love and care for others? So that's why sometimes we have very aggressive husbands, aggressive boyfriends, aggressive young men, aggressive male world, because even them, that is what they went through. So most people stay at this level. Uh, most people stay at this level for the majority of their lives. They are constantly trying to be accepted by others. And children who are not supplied fairly well with this need of being loved, especially growing up in a family where there is both the father and mother, they get stuck here and are psychologically hurt. And like I said, these are some of the youth we meet in therapy rooms, children who are suicidal, some of these things, psychology shows that there are gaps in their growing, fatherless children. Those who are satisfied with this need easily move to other stages, like they look now for self-actualization and so on. Otherwise, you realize that most people have issues with relationships. And so, just jumping quickly to the qualities, how time rushes very fast. But okay, qualities of a man of God's heart and the impact on the family. So, what are some of these qualities? We saw that God is love, right? So, the qualities would be, one of them, this man should have love, but unconditional love for his wife and children. These verses we will not read. I've only quoted them. You can read them on your own from Ephesians chapter 5:25, in Colossians. It is demonstrated through acts of service, affection, and quality time. This looks like it's so simple, but it's not. We have so many families where people are crying for time. People say, yes, they provide, they do everything. He gives us, I think I remember many years ago, I saw a young woman who told me, when I asked her that, does this guy provide? She said, by the way, he provides to an extent that he gives me his ATM card and tells me, go and get the money you want and go for a vacation that you want with the children, but minus him, you know? So at the end of the day, even the money is not sweet. It's not, because that is not how God created us. God created that if people are meant to be together, then they should be together. There's no way you can say because you've given the person the money, the ATM, because the guy would even ask her, what else do you want? I've given you money. Go with the kids. She even said, okay, I wish he used to go with us to church. But nowadays, he doesn't even want to come to church. He says, there's fuel in the car. You go with the children. You see the modern issues in marriage? Don't only think about this food which has not been cooked well. There are these other things that look like as though they do not exist. So, but someone who has unconditional love for their wife and children, they will at least create something. We know that men are so very hardworking. The economy is harsh. Yeah, it's harsh. People have to work. Sometimes people are working 3 jobs. People are working during daytime. They go at home and continue working, like to satisfy the needs. But guys, at the end of the day, even when you satisfy all the needs, emotional needs, if they are not met, the relationship will suffer. It is going to affect the children. Children are going to ask, when do we speak to daddy? When will, all these things. So you have to create time for this family and at least show them some affection and just give them some time. It is good enough. And women, I know, do appreciate that if it's there. And the impact it does is that it creates a secure and loving home environment when uh, fathers or men, and women might wonder, why is that I'm only speaking about men? Actually, I was given a topic, that's the man. I'm speaking according to the topic, okay? But I'm sure even the women are learning, right? I know Elder Bikongolo will also be speaking about a woman of God's heart. And the men will also learn, okay? Yeah, so then also a servant leader. A man, one of the qualities that God gave men is they are leaders, natural leaders. You know, once you have a home, you have a family, you're already a leader of that family. It does not mean whether your wife is taller than you or bigger than you, you're still the leader of the home. So, but you're leading the home with some humility. Still, because of time, we will not read those verses. Participates actively in household activities, especially at least child care. There are men, fathers who never even touch their children. They feel it's a lady's what? But the fathers also need to bond with their children because at the end of the day, the older men currently, I was told somewhere, we're eating somewhere in the restaurant, and men started complaining. They had their KB, and then they said, women, they remove our children from us. I don't know if you've heard about that KB anywhere. Have you? Yeah? You've heard men say these things. They say, problem with women. Then they all begin telling each other, yeah, even me, my wife, he has removed my children from me. When I come, they all just go. They don't come to me. They greet me and they go away. But I hear them in the kitchen with their mother giggling. But I want to tell you, our dear men, that this is worked for. By the way, it doesn't just come. And yet, the men provide more. Yes? The men are the ones who pay the tuition for these children. They are the ones who give the mothers even the money to go and visit the children. They do everything. But without you giving any time to bond with your child, that is not bought with money, I promise you. That one, the bonding with a child, money doesn't buy it. Even when you take them to the best schools. But as long as you don't step there once in a while and go visit, you ask, how is school? How are you finding this? You're already bonding. I still remember my father comes from the old school, I should say. He's not the modern father. He was an authoritative father. But at least I still remember spots of love from him because I still remember him asking things like, Evelyn, then can you bring here your books? I want to see. Then he checks your books and starts telling you, but you have not put, those days we used to use rulers. He wanted me to be organized. And then he checks and says, this is finished. You need more. Like he was involved. The whole thing is, even fathers have to be involved in children's lives. Play with them. Play once in a while. Playing does not make you not a father enough or not a man enough. It is very important. Play with your children, play with also your wife, once in a while. And the children love seeing mommy and daddy in a joking. They love it, by the way. Even when you're not doing it seriously, or I don't know, meaning it in your heart. Once in a while you hug when they are seeing you. Okay, if you're not meaning it, do it for the children. Let me tell you, they will go to bed very happy because they feel at our home there is love. But when children go to school, when they are left mommy and daddy shouting and quarreling, even an 8-year-old will be in class while thinking, when do I get back home? Because I'm not so sure if I'll find when my mother is safe. You see, you already create anxiety. There are people who have chronic anxiety, but it was caused from home because they're always worried something is going to what? To happen. I'm not so sure if I'll find when my parents are still okay. So create a safe environment as men in the home. And honest and truthful in all his dealings. I will not go find this, but sometimes, let me just use a small example. I'll not go find in how people do their work, but I'll be near in two things, like you're with your children in the car, and because you're a business dealer, you have so many plans, and then guy calls you, and because he's demanding you money, and you don't have it immediately. I know men are not good at saying things like no, I don't have it now. They usually love painting a good picture. So you start saying, no, I'm not here. I'm in Bale. When you're in what? In Kampala, and your child is what? Is hearing. You've already created a seed. You've planted a seed because that will not be forgotten. So in all your dealings, okay, whether in your work, be truthful and endeavor to help children know that that is how life is supposed to be. Lives a life that is aligned with their faith. We have males in church. I don't know, in Bethel, they're not there. But in some churches, we have male or fathers or husbands who use alcohol. I will say this slowly because it's not heard of in the Adventist church, right? It is even an abomination to speak about it. But it is true that we have some males who use alcohol, but they're in church. So their women have to be very good and protect their image, but sometimes things can spill out because of the behavior of the person. And this is coming because people have stress and they do not want to speak to anyone to be able to offload the pain they have. So just like a worldly person, they will also go and drink to be able to remove this stress. Not because they want to use the alcohol, but they're trying to cope with a problem. So let us live as the faith tells us. The impact of that kind of good living for a male will build self-esteem for the children, um, teaches them about love, teaches humility to the children, fosters cooperation, and demonstrates practical Christianity, trusts, and provides a moral compass for children. If you want your children to be the best, be that which you want them to be. There's nothing like you cannot be something else and you expect something else. No, you have to be that for as long as you accept to be in a family, to have children, unless you decide that no, I'm not going to have children because me, I'm not going to be there all the time trying to do good things to be an example. But the moment you decide, you need to be a good example because these things are a vicious cycle. They come back. A man after God's heart needs to have some compassion and empathy, understands and shares the feelings of his family members, offers support and comfort during difficult times. I know there's a writer, I think, I don't know if it's Gary Chapman, who wrote about men from Mars and women from what he said that men do not have a problem with facing emotions. It's understandable from the male point of view. But at least it's also good to learn that emotions are normal and they were created in us by God. And so once in a while, it's okay to be vulnerable and be able to speak, to understand that other people can have feelings. Because some men may not even want ladies to express pain, that maybe I'm going through this and this is so hard on me. They will just shut up, shut down, and feel those are ladies' things. And that's why people now are getting other groups, other places to vent because they cannot vent from their homes. What does this empathy create on your family? It creates a safe place, safe space for emotional expression, teaches empathy to children. As a counselor, when I meet teenagers and then you ask them that you want to know, especially those ones who are suicidal. Currently, we have, I do not know, but I meet teenagers who are also suicidal. And usually, I want to know what is happening at home. So you ask the child and say, tell me about your family. How do you relate with your parents? How do you relate with dad and mom? Then they will tell you, mom, yes, a bit. But dad, no, you know, because there's not been good interaction. And the things are a repercussion to their mental health because they do not have a safe space to speak out what is hurting them. You speak to a teenager who is only 16 and say, why do you really want to kill yourself? They say, I just want to die. A 16-year-old, all my life, for us to even grow up in the most difficult time. I don't know, these kids have grown up in even a simpler, you know, in the most difficult times. But all my life, I had never thought that, okay, this is so difficult for me to want to die. But children today, a 16-year-old, tells you that I want to die. And you look, the child has all the protective factors, has both parents at home, mom and dad, and you want to know what is going on. We know, yes, they are disturbed by relationships and all these things, but the moment there is good space, compassion, empathy at home, and sharing and giving safe spaces for emotional expression, yes, these children can have issues, but they get resilience. Many of these children do not have any emotional resilience. They give up when issues happen. So a disciplinarian, we know that a godly man is also a disciplinarian, but with love, not one who just flogs, beats people, to show that they are men in the family, but they discipline with loving guidance and correction. I think we are, maybe just read only this one verse, Proverbs 13:24. Um, Proverbs 13:24, just to maybe to learn from the Bible how does this disciplinarian discipline. Just that one verse. Anyone has found it? Or maybe Rita can read if she has a Bible near. Okay, you found it. Please, you read it.
He who spares his rod hates his son.
Okay.
He who loves him splits him promptly.
Okay. Yeah. So this rod is not about you getting a stick and begin flogging and beating up the child, but correction is in very many ways. Being mindful of what is happening to your child. If you have someone you're living with, right from, okay, age appropriate. I will say age appropriate because I know we may have people who are having babies, whatever age. If a child is doing something which is off, which you feel is not good, please attend to that immediately. Do not leave that to pass. Then you come back later and say, this child did this. Because children learn, especially from 0 to about 8 years, there should be consistent help for these children because they do not know many things. They learn many things from the family, how they see mom and dad do, what they are told. If the child is jumping on tables and stepping, then mom and dad just laugh. They are too happy because their child is playing. The child will think that this is normal. As the child jumps on the table, that's the time to immediately pass on discipline and say, we do not jump on the table, and be serious on that. Go down, jump from down, okay? Age appropriate, because the 2-year-old is very active. But support the 2-year-old. You're going to the supermarket, she's falling everywhere, and then the parent is only happy because my child is now playing. So everything we do with love. The problem is getting like a child of 3, you begin beating, slapping, you confuse this child. Actually, they will not understand what you're doing, because at the end of the day, you're the one now who has a problem, not the child. So first work on your emotions when you're going to what? To discipline a child. Because the whole thing is should be to teach, not to make the child again not to what? Not to just feel pain and disturb the child because they will not just understand what this hero of theirs is doing at that moment. So, because there are so many bad things that have happened to children out of people trying to use spare the rod and spoil the child. They end up beating children, but they want to satisfy something in their own mind, but not to help the child. So impact on the family, it helps to set boundaries. The child knows, for us in our home, this is what we do. We pray before we eat. Even praying with the child before they, even if they are 2 years, you'll need to have time with them. Don't say I'm so busy. You need to say let us pray for the food, because it has to be consistent. Once you leave them to eat without praying today, the other day, they'll pick up that. So all the things can only be done by someone who has time. It fosters self-control, teaches responsibility, a spiritual leader. This one is very important. A father, a male who has God's heart, nurtures his family spiritually. He nurtures the spiritual growth of his family. This is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 to 9. Leads the family worship, prays with his family, and teaches them about God. Growing up, I know that most fathers used to, things of prayer used to be for women, for the mothers in the home. And no wonder a certain generation, maybe in our time, some of the males are not as godly because they never saw their fathers do what? Lead worship in their homes. So it's important for daddy also to lead worship in the family. It's very, in fact, it's the prime role of the male. The way the ladies, for them, it's a natural thing. It's a given, you know. They know we must have worship. But when a father is not interested, and there are even also male children in that house, they will also pick from them. What is, does this impact the family? Strengthens the faith of the children, builds a spiritual foundation. For us who are Adventists, we do not know, we may not, we see this as obvious. I mean, we pray in our homes, but meeting people who are not Christians like us, I've seen the impact on their children. One of my clients one day comes from a Christian home, but because she had stress, she just changed one day, a 19-year-old, and told me that, you know what, miss, these days I'm feeling like I'm getting close to Allah. But she's from a Christian what? Christian family. Then I said, okay, do you have any Muslim in your family? She said, no. Why? Because she felt she has a friend who is reading for her the Quran. So there's an age where people want to be very close to the creator or the higher power. And if they do not find it strong right from their family, they will go anywhere. So it's very important to put this, have this worship in the family, but it should also be interesting. Don't make it like a punishment. Yeah. In our home, when when you had not washed plates on your time, that's when our mom would read a verse. It's in Ephesians. And in fact, I used not to take that verse serious because our mom used to use it so much. The children, is it obey what? Yes. Just because you did not what? So that night, the sermon is about you. For example, like so and so, you did not wash the dishes. Please do not do such fellowships in their homes. They make children to get tired of our kind of worship, and that's why they move out of church and go to other places. And I once said this, but I come from a Protestant family. My dad was a reverend, but how I comfortably became an Adventist, I felt I needed something. Yeah, I felt more close to God. I do not know why, but yes, I do. I even one time felt that maybe one time I will want to go back to where I came from, but it has never happened. So even as Adventists, if we do not make our children love our faith and we make it like it's a punishment, like it's a what, sometimes when they grow and then they go to these other places, that is how they do what? They get lost. So let it be done in love. And yeah, we have said fathers play an important, unique role in development of a child. They do things that even when a mother tries, cannot do them the same way because they are gifted differently. There is no way a woman can say, I'm going to play the father the role of a what? It's not within. what God embedded in us. We can do other things. So, for example, if I'm a lady and I'm alone raising a male child, I know very that even if I do everything, what there are going to be some gaps in this male child. Either he's going to grow up as a male who is a little bit as sensitive, very sensitive, gets angry quickly because he was raised by a lady, and that's how ladies behave. You know, we are quick to get annoyed. We are so picky. We are sensitive. So you realize the male is so sensitive, not doesn't want things, and then people say, "How come that this guy gets annoyed quickly like women? How do you expect him to do it when he only knew from his mother?" So this male child, if there is no father, must at least get a male role model. Church elders, uncles, judges. This child at least needs to at least be in a male environment to see how men behave. So even a female child, the same way, even a female child benefits from a male presence. There will be some gaps in a way. So there is no way you can play a role that is not yours. So if fathers can play their roles, then we'll have a generation which is very good. They are looked at as providers, protectors, responsible for making sure that the household is safe, secure. I just put especially at night because it's naturally known that male are a figure of protection. So even when homes have everything, all the protection, just having the male figure in the house creates a little bit of security in the home. I understand these days, men, I was just told, I don't know if it's true, that in some homes when a snake enters the house, that the father jumps on the table and then the mother holds the children and they eat. But growing up, I knew because me, I cannot kill a snake. If it comes, the problem is I'll either live for it the house because I grew up knowing that my brothers were the ones hitting the snake or my dad. Okay? So they're just some simple things which are masculine in nature, but it doesn't mean that women shouldn't kill snakes. If you're strong, please kill it because it will bite you for free as you're still waiting for the male. Yeah, so, but provision, security, we know even women support in providing, but still there is that upper hand that comes in, you know. So these qualities can be nurtured in our children. I'm completing. I think I have one. These are the last slides, two slides. Um, these qualities can be nurtured in our children. One, parents to raise children in a structured way, make good use of church. Please, let's make good use of church. The church is very helpful in raising our children. We should not take this for granted because the church has structures. We have this right from Adventurer, Pathfinder, blah, blah. All those programs. I understand there are parents who shun those programs. And incidentally, parents who have grown up, people who have grown up in Adventist homes are the ones who shun those programs. You know, it's like because they did not do them, they don't find them important. But I'm telling you, you'll never find those programs anywhere else. It's only in this church. But they give a structure. If you go through what they teach, there's a way in which I can testify from my own children. There are things that maybe I've failed to pass on very well, but they gain them in these clubs. So please make sure your child, if it's adventure, even if adventure is from what, how old? 4 years? 4 years, right? Yes, 4 years. Please make sure they attend. Buy the uniform. Let them be there. You're doing it, you're spending, but you will gain. You'll thank these programs later. Some of us who now have older teenagers in our homes, you'll be like, there's some things I would not have done better. The church has done them. So please make use of this structure. Model godly character. I already said that don't expect good when you're not doing it. You are very rough, to your spouse, and you do it even when children are seeing, and you think that the child will do differently. Support each other in helping to mold godly characters. It should be for both mom and dad, or husband and wife. Husbands or fathers, please intentionally cultivate these qualities in your life. Spend time in prayer and Bible study because that is where we get knowledge. I remember Solomon asked for wisdom from God and God gave him. God gives what we ask. If we only ask for money, no wisdom, God will give you a lot of money, but when you don't have wisdom, yeah, you don't have wisdom. You see a man is a godly man but is struggling, has a home here, has a home somewhere, is really suffering to make sure that no one gets to know this. So ask God to give you godly characters. Seek mentorship from other godly men. We have men who might be more godly or mature spiritually. It's good for men also to have a male talk as men to support each other. I know women, by the way, women are very good at support systems. Could men also come up with support systems of fellow men? Is that possible? Or men only speak about cars? One time that we asked that when men meet during this, there was this meeting of men. What was it called? Yes? Men's Congress. We were just joking as women. We started asking at night, what are men going to speak about? We said when they meet, they are going to speak about the cars, the best cars, the one which cruises faster, and then the land, plots, what, and so on. When women meet, they can say, Nange, ochimengo mwana antawanya. Simanyi na kyakukola banange. I don't know. What have you done? Ng'omulala amuddamu. No, I had the same problem. Tofaayo. You can do this. You know, women have strong support systems. And that's why sometimes they do better when it comes to that. Men suffer a lot and always see someone dying of high blood pressure. By the some things are enhanced by chronic stress of not having spaces, safe spaces to vent. So men can also come up with safe spaces as fellow, because I know that men sometimes listen more better to their fellow men because they know this man is going through what I'm going through. They understand. So speak about the cars, but also speak about things that hurt you. This loan which is not going away. Tell your fellow man, say, man, I'm dying. You see me, I've raised this school house, these things, but I have a loan of 200 million and I don't know what to do. It's okay. They may not even give you the 200 million, but you might lessen the burden when he tells you, oh, yeah, I know you're going through that. That's so difficult, but maybe try this and that. So that you go home with a light head. But you're sleeping, you're tossing, you're turning. The lady is just wondering, what's wrong with the man? He's not sleeping, but you're dying alone. So please, men, create safe spaces. Be role models for your children. In conclusion, the role of men, one as fathers and as husbands, is multifaceted, like it's big and crucial for the well-being of families and society. One, it encompasses providing, protecting, nurturing, and guiding. When men embrace these roles with love, responsibility, and commitment, they create strong families, raise well adjusted children, and contribute to a more stable and harmonious society. So even when we may not achieve everything, if at least we have men who can be able to do a few of these roles, we'll have well adjusted children. Children go through a lot. And unfortunately, they do not speak to their parents because they have not put these spaces for them to be able to speak out because the families are disorganized. So I pray that God blesses us and we bless the men because they are leaders, they are people who guide the families, they are protectors, they are, they do so many things. But also may the ladies also make it possible for the men to be these leaders. Because also when you put someone down when they are trying, don't begin saying, now you've started to do these things because you had that talk. Please do not use those sarcastic words because also men have a lot of power, but men are very sensitive to their ego and their power as men. So when it's touched, they completely lose it immediately. So please do not give those good statements. Just be thankful and maybe keep praying for this person if they are trying. May God bless us all.